some point in time, my mind must have thought I must be a wealthy person. I'm going to be a wealthy person. Or as Minister Stark said a little bit earlier, I come from a wealthy heritage. So, with Solomon, if you look at the storyline, there was a lot of different distress that went on between David and Bathsheba. First of all, their relationship was bought out of deceit, out of murder. There was blood on their relationship. David actually had Bathsheba's husband killed just so he could have Bathsheba. Before that, he lusted on her from, a different place, like from a high place while she showered in the nude. So there's a whole lot of things going on that just wasn't right. Not in the people's eyes, not in God's eyes. But what happened is when they had this child, they named him Solomon. Solomon's, his name actually means, I think I might be getting ahead of myself, but his name actually means peace. His name means peace. You can find that in Chronicles 22 and 9. And basically what happened was they named him peace because they had found peace with God. They had finally found peace with God after all of that stuff that happened before. They finally felt like they found a place with God where they had peace, finally. So then he actually had a second name, which I didn't know. The second name, if you look, 2 Samuel 12. The second name was Jedediah. The actual meaning means beloved of God. And all of my life, I always thought that's what Solomon's name meant, was beloved of God. But there was two names that you see. One name that they called him when he was born. The second name was the name that he told Nathan to go tell the people that he was born. His name was Jedediah, beloved of God. So that was really interesting to me. And a lot of the commentary that I read talked about Solomon actually being a type of Christ. He was kind of like, one of the people who came before Christ to kind of show, what Christ is going to be to us. And the biggest part of that, we've always heard that one of Christ's names is the Prince of Peace. And that's what Solomon came to become. Well, he came to be as he grew up and did some of the things that God had for him to do. Right? So now the second thing, as I went on, I got to see more things and more lessons come out of their relationship. And the second thing that I saw was appointment and blessings. Now in here we see that it was customary. We see something here that wasn't customary in most Jewish cultures and also royalty. As you know, most of the time in royalty, your eldest child is the person who comes to take the throne. So here, we know that David had a lot of different children. There was actually one child who rose up and said that he was going to be king. In David's exit, as he was about to die, he was about to give up his throne, one of his children said, I'm going to be king. Just rose up and just said, I'm going to be king. Started to establish his own little kingdom and was totally out of line. It was already promised to David that Solomon was going to be king. It was out of the order, but it was what God had planned already. All the way back when David committed his sin and tried to build God's temple. So, one thing that I kind of understood is, even with the naming of your child, one thing that you have to understand is that we kind of have to be open to the voice of God to understand what this child is going to be. It's a big thing as far as prayer, especially in the Jewish culture. They say that prophecy comes to the Jewish culture when they name the child. And what happens is the rabbi would usually prophesy what their child is going to be. And the parents usually agree with that prophecy and name that child whatever that child is going to be. So it's a big thing as far as appointment and blessing. Like the appointment is to appoint your child what they're going to be, and then to give them that blessing for the life. Right? This also teaches us a lesson in announcing what your child is going to be. Like a lot of what we see in today's culture are children who are without any identity. And a lot of that is because of the lack of fatherhood in the home. One of the things that you see is that, you might see a lot of homosexual sexuality, kids chasing after, trying to figure out who they are, going after whatever is the new trend, that type of stuff, not knowing who they are. All of those are identity struggles. So, that father naming that child, saying this is what you're going to be, that helps in that identity struggle. Because now I have something to reach for. I have something in the back of my mind to say, this is what I'm supposed to be. My father is naming this. Look at 1 Kings 1 and 34. And if somebody could just read that for me, please. This 1 Kings chapter 1, 34 verse.
And let Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anoint him there king over Israel. And blow ye with a trumpet, and say, God save King Solomon.
That right there was super important to me, because that already said David had a plan that Solomon was going to be saved, period. That was one of his first plans that he announced over his life publicly. He said that David is going to be saved, and he kind of put the responsibility on the community and said, and he shared it with the community. Once that trumpet blew, all of the community was gonna say that loud, that Solomon be saved. God saved Solomon. So that was one of the things that was real important to me. I like that. It showed that he had a purpose for his child's life. And that's one thing that we as men, we have that responsibility to make sure that purpose is there and to share the love of God with our children. And some of us may not actually have children, but there's people who you could, invest what you have into their lives. And we'll get into that a little bit later as well. The third thing I saw in this text was respect. And Co-Pastor Taylor talked about it a lot, talking about the respect, the interdependency of wives and husbands. So if you look at 1 Kings 1 and 6, actually,